Have you ever felt overwhelmed as a leader? Yeah, me too. Want to know one essential thing that the best leaders do to manage this chaos? Watch this short video. I'm Bob Wendover. I've had the long-time privilege of interviewing senior leaders in a wide variety of organizations. And one of the things that I've always been fascinated with is the way that they handle the pressures of their positions. Now, some in my observation seem to sail through the days and weeks with a sort of a calmness and a clarity that enables them to navigate even the most challenging situations. Others, on the other hand, seem to be working too hard just to stay on top of things. And eventually, of course, something goes wrong and they get derailed, and then they spend the next few days or even a week catching up. In preparation for a new effort I'm launching, I've been asking the leaders I respect the most if I've been giving the average leader too much credit for knowing what they're doing. And without exception, they've all said, yeah. Now, please don't take offense at this if you're a leader. I'm just reporting the opinions of the other people that I've talked to. But then I've also asked these individuals what set the effective leaders apart from those who seem to struggle and feel overwhelmed all the time. Now, they've shared a number of reasons, but one universal response has been, well, they're comfortable saying no, and they do it a lot more than those who struggle on the job. Leaders become leaders in a variety of different ways, don't they? You know, some aspire to be leaders and then discover what it's really like when it all falls to them. Others have had the mantle placed on them. This is typical, for instance, of the millions of family-owned businesses throughout the U.S. And then there are those who are pretty good managers but end up managing rather than leading, even though they've taken on the role of leader once they've been promoted. I've met leaders who have ended up with the responsibility because no one else wanted it. A good example of this are those, for instance, in high turnover industries like retail and hospitality and so on, who end up being the last person standing because they've been there the longest, even if it's only maybe 6 months. When I've asked the leaders I've talked to how the most effective leaders learn to say no and enforce it, they've offered a number of strategies, which I'll share in a minute. But the one thing they all mention is that the effective leaders possess the right mindset. In other words, they are comfortable saying no. And this means giving yourself permission to inhabit a new belief system. For those who are used to saying yes to absolutely everything, this can be a real struggle. Now the reasons for this are several. It might be because they want to please everybody. It might be because someone taught them that saying no is just rude or inconsiderate. It might be because they say yes out of fear that they will appear uncooperative to those around them. Whatever the reason, they will continue to struggle to become an effective leader until they master this adjustment. A simple strategy I've shared with countless leaders is to say the word perhaps rather than reflectively saying yes when people ask them about maybe attending a meeting or taking on a task or getting involved with some other commitment. Saying perhaps gives you a moment to pause and to ask for clarification about what might be involved. You just have to have the presence of mind to respond that way when approached. So, what about the other strategies these leaders have shared? Well, there were 5 of them. Number 1, consider the value of every meeting before committing to it. It's natural to want the leader to be in every meeting where decisions are being made, right? That way things can be resolved and resources can be provided immediately. At least that's the theory. But how many meetings have you been in where the discussion devolves into the nitty-gritty, and as a result you sit there wasting time that could be employed elsewhere? Instead of allowing this to happen, tell the person organizing the meeting to come to you after the meeting with the options that have been decided, or maybe the recommendations or the request for authority or resources. You might say something like, tell you what, get on my calendar for 15 minutes and we can finalize what you guys want to do. Now, by the way, always put a time frame on meetings like this because it signals a demand for conciseness. If those who are working for you can't figure that out, you might need to work on them about this expectation. Second, take time to consider whether you should be making the decision yourself. Seth Godin has said any number of times that people don't make decisions not out of a fear of failure, but out of a fear of blame. Sadly, I think he's spot on. The more decisions you can force down into the organization, the more time and energy you as a leader will conserve for planning and connecting and visioning and relationship building, or frankly, maybe just taking a bit of time for yourself to recharge. Unless it is essential that you make the decision, determine where the responsibility for the decision should rest and then delegate. Now, more about that in a second. Don't fall into the trap of thinking, oh, it's just easier to make the decision. What you'll be doing, actually, is encouraging people to come to you with every little issue. And that's, of course, a recipe for endless distractions, not to mention creating a dependence among those who are supposed to be supporting you rather than you supporting them. Now, third, delegate everything you can and make it stick. There are 4 parts to a successful delegation from what I've observed. First of all, provide a clear expectation or outcome. Second, provide the authority to act. Third, provide the resources necessary and assure those being assigned this responsibility that you have their backs if something goes wrong. And this last part may require some perseverance until they believe it. But once they do, they will develop the confidence to act. Now, if someone comes to you asking you to make a decision that has been delegated to them, bounce it back to them. Now, this may take some perseverance as well, but that effort will be well worth it over time when they stop doing so. Fourth, learn how to say no diplomatically. Can you come to our meeting? Can I get on your calendar about an issue? Hey, I need you to make a decision about. Simply saying no to these requests sometimes can seem kind of abrupt or rude. Instead, you might say, well, perhaps, as I mentioned before, or you might say, I tell you what, why don't you send me the details in an email and I'll get back to you real quick. That gives you a chance to drill down a bit on the details and determine whether this warrants your time and attention or someone else's. There are a lot of people out there who assume that anything requiring a decision should involve you, the leader. And that's simply not true. But you'll have to show them how to discern the different levels of priority and then enforce this once you do. And fifth, be purposeful in repurposing time saved by saying no. It's not uncommon to get out of one commitment only to find that you're immediately consumed by something else. Is it okay to simply block time on your calendar? Yes. You don't have to explain why. You're the leader. I've saved endless hours and gotten out of endless meetings by simply saying, I'm sorry, I have another commitment. Now, that commitment could be, going for a walk to my favorite ice cream shop. Once again, you're their leader. As a leader, what strategies work for you in saying no? We'd all like to know. Put them in the comments below and make sure to subscribe to this channel so you'll be notified when I post more practical ideas just like these. I'm Bob Wendover.